of the fight of independence, not of Bangladesh, but of Greece against the Turks. And Byron sincerely thought of creating a unit, not of Mukti Bahinis, but of Souliots, freedom fighters, Greek freedom fighters of this time, in order to liberate Greece. But according to Roger Stéphane and to Jean-Paul Sartre, what was at stake in the literature of Byron was probably less the fate of the Greece and of the Greeks and the freedom of the Greeks than a big theater in order to deploy, comment on dit déployer, in order to unravel literature, concepts, ideas, and so on. And for any committed writer, there is this temptation. It exists. There is another one. There was another temptation. I read, a few years before I came here, a great book, not philosophy, literature, but in a way philosophy. Probably the best novel about war ever written in modern times, since Iliad, the Iliad of Homer of our time. A book, a novel of the Italian writer called Malaparte. The title was Caput, Caput of Malaparte. Malaparte took huge risks. He was a great reporter. He was really committed. Nobody can deny his true commitment. But when you read accurately the novel and when you know the life of Malaparte, you discover very quickly that Malaparte was first of all a dandy, and that the temptation of Malaparte was temptation of looking at the war in a very cold way, as a sort of nearly aesthetic show, the war as a show of which Malaparte was the accurate observer. All these attitudes, if I am sincere with myself, if I try tonight to be completely sincere, I had probably a little of each of them in myself, and I was deeply disgusted by each of them too. None of them was convenient for me. I was uncomfortable with all these attitudes which the philosophical or literary Western tradition transmitted to me and to us. And there was at the end a fifth attitude, which was maybe the worst, the most serious and the worst, which was the attitude of those philosophers whose commitment consisted in making a revolution. The dream of changing the world in its depth. The dream of targeting man right in his soul. The dream of breaking history into two. This was the dream of those philosophers who stemmed from Marxist philosophy, and you had some specimens of this tradition here in the two Bengals, Indian Bengal and Bangladesh, who was the Naxalites, the Maoists, and so on. And again, I very quickly understood that this attitude was not only embarrassing, but that it was the possibility and even the necessity of the pure nightmare. I understood in Bangladesh, interviewing one of the Naxalites, I don't know if the name rings a bell here today in this young audience, in interviewing Mohammed Toha, who was, you know the name? Okay. I understood that this project, this commitment consisting in breaking the history into two, that one had